The agenda is sponsored by Newcastle County Government.
Senator Coons, welcome back for the Washington Minute.
Great to be on with you. Might be for more than a minute.
Might be for more than a minute. And last time we were talking about infrastructure. This time we want to talk about the Build Back Better bill. Tell us a little bit about it. Well, first, it encompasses so much.
Yeah.
There's so many social aspects of it. The other problem, I don't want to call it a problem, but the issue is not a lot of people know about it.
That's right.
I think only 11% of Americans know what's going on with this bill, and it affects them directly.
That's right.
I don't want to call it a juggernaut, but it is big and encompasses a lot of social programs that affect us, such as child care, elder care, which, I mean, my wife and I are in what we call an Oreo generation, and we're taking care of parents and we're taking care of kids at the same time. Yep. So something like this would affect us dramatically, and not a lot of people know about it.
That's right.
Delawareans especially, I mean, we have so much going on with infrastructure, and it took so much of the bandwidth of people's ideas and knowledge, but they're trying to get this $3-point-some trillion bill through right now.
So let's focus not on the top line, the 3.5 trillion, because that's coming down. Let's focus on the policies, on what it is that Democrats in the Senate are trying to come together, pass, send over to the House, and get the House to send to the president's desk. In August, we finished the bipartisan infrastructure bill. That passed the Senate, it's in the House, it's waiting to go to the president. Now we're trying to finish this Build Back Better bill. It's got 4 basic pieces. The first is a number of proposals for new social investments, what you were just talking about. Pre-K, universal pre-K, paid family leave, so you don't lose your job if you have to take a few days off to help a sick family member, elder care, investment in home-based healthcare services, expanding Medicare to include dental and vision. There's a whole series of proposals, whether it's daycare, elder care, pre-K, that would help reduce the costs that keep America's working families up at night and help people get back to work. That's the core of this proposal. But it's also fully paid for and would provide a huge middle-class tax cut. What do I mean by that?
Right. So many people hear that. It's fully paid for. What do you mean by that?
So in 2017, when Republicans had Donald Trump in the White House as president and control of the House and Senate, they used the same thing that we're using now. It's called reconciliation. It lets you pass a big bill with just 50 votes. So all 50 Democrats have got to vote for this or it doesn't move. In 2017, they did a big tax cut. And it was a tax cut that overwhelmingly benefited those who are very rich and companies that are quite profitable. And they reduced their tax rates by a lot. In this bill, we would reverse some of those tax cuts. We would raise the tax rates for corporations, for example. We would raise some of the tax treatments for not earned income, but investment income. That would raise enough new money to pay for the new spending. So one of the core sort of principles of this is we reduce taxes on families. The child tax credit gets expanded and extended, but we would increase taxes for companies and individuals so that the whole thing is paid for. That's how it wouldn't add to our deficit and debt. Senator Manchin's talked a lot about his concerns about inflation. I share those concerns. Senator Sinema, Senator Manchin are the 2 holdouts in my caucus who we need to get to agreement, or we're not going to get this to the president's desk. That's the hard work that's going on now.
What are some of their big concerns?
Some of their concerns is that there are too many proposals that cost too much, in their view, and that it may add to inflation pressures, or it may make it more difficult for our economy to recover from the pandemic. Given that, and given some of the differences between Democrats in the House, there's a lot of negotiating going on right now. We just passed a debt ceiling extension and a bill to keep the government open through the end of the year. We are now going to focus for the next 6 weeks on getting this Build Back Better bill done, out of the Senate to the House, and then over to the president. If we don't get that done by about Thanksgiving, the debt ceiling is going to come back. We're going to have another fight with Mitch McConnell. We got a whole lot of trouble. So we've got a narrow window to get this done, but I am optimistic we will. And when President Biden signs the infrastructure bill and signs the Build Back Better bill in January, hopefully earlier, into law, next year we will see some big changes in the balance sheet of your average working family in the United States. Lower cost in terms of taxes paid, lower cost in terms of health care, child care, pre-K, elder care.
And also higher education, I've saw.
And higher education.
We are fortunate enough to have an HBCU in this state, as well as another several other universities. And there is, I guess, funding that's carved out for HBCUs and tribal organizations that affect us as Delawareans.
That's right. There's a specific bill that I've co-sponsored in the Senate and helped lead with my friend Congresswoman Alma Adams of North Carolina, who's the co-chair with me of the HBCU caucus. It would specifically invest $2 billion with a focus on research infrastructure on HBCU campuses, but more broadly, HBCUs graduate nearly a third of all Black STEM professionals in the country, despite having very little in the way of endowments and having a lot of deferred maintenance in terms of the campuses. There's more than 100 high-performing, high-quality HBCUs in this country. Del State steadily rising in terms of its ranking, growing the diversity and the skills and the scope of its student body, and growing in terms of the capacities and capabilities of its research facilities and other facilities on campus. This will accelerate Del State becoming a genuinely competitive national research university.
And it goes back to our whole investing in our people to make us competitive globally.
Right.
And we tend to forget about that. And universal child care. This is something that we're trying to get, our universal kindergarten, is something that we're trying to get. There are other countries doing this right now.
So China is our principal global competitor economically today. The Chinese government has funded and provided universal pre-K, and a lot of our European competitors are providing robust, high-quality, affordable daycare. If you look at the 37 countries that are in it's called the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, they measure modern economies on how strong the workforce is, on government investment in things like education, daycare, healthcare. We are at or near the bottom in terms of investing in making higher education affordable and accessible, investing in pre-K and early childhood education, investing in daycare. That's one of the reasons our economy right now is struggling. We've got many more jobs available than we have people going into the workforce. That's positive in that wages are going up. It's negative in that we need more people going to work. One of the main reasons people aren't getting back to work is the pandemic is dragging on too long because of vaccine hesitancy. But also, frankly, we have too many families that are juggling, as you said earlier, you and your wife know all about this, caring for an aging parent, caring for kids. I've got folks who work for me who pay more for daycare than they do for their mortgage. We've got to address this as a country, and the Build Back Better bill will make critical strategic investments in these human aspects of our economy.
What would you say to some people who are naysayers to this, to say this is just too much, you hit us with the infrastructure, now you're hitting us with this, and they're just not happy?
Well, I'm not sure how I could understand infrastructure as hitting them. This is something that presidents, from President Trump to President Obama, back to President Bush, presidents have been talking for decades about how we need to invest in modernizing our infrastructure. Anyone who travels to our competitor countries, one of the first things you notice when you get to China is just how modern, how advanced their trains are, their airports are, their subway systems are. Same in Europe. We are living off the infrastructure that was built by our parents and our grandparents, and we are desperately behind in modernizing and investing in, whether it's I-95 or the Amtrak that goes up and down the East Coast. We don't have high-speed rail in this country. Yet from Japan to France to Germany to UK to China, they all do. They have genuinely high-speed rail. We've got, quick-moving rail, but it's far from high speed.
Right.
We can't drive up and down this state without having a cell phone call drop several times. We don't have modern broadband access. One of the things that the infrastructure bill will invest in is $65 billion to build out broadband access. And as we've come out of this, as we're coming out of this pandemic, one of the things all of us have learned is that telework, telehealth, and distance learning, teleeducation, are all things that are now here, but not fully accessible. We have way too many kids who can't log into a remote class, way too many parents who'd like to be able to work from home who can't. We have to invest in broadband infrastructure to allow everybody in this country to participate in the economy of the 21st century.
So how would you recommend Delawareans who want to be active in this process? So many of us don't know what was going on with the Build Back Better bill. Should we reach out to Congress people? Should we make phone calls? I mean, that's what I love about the agenda staff, what I love about the agenda viewers, and being a part of DETV and Channel 28 is we're very, very active. So if you had us by the ear, which you do today, and you wanted to tell us that we could do something, what is it?
So a couple things. First, if there's any federal issue that folks watching have, a problem with the Veterans Administration, with the IRS, with getting some of the benefits and programs explained to you that have been passed previously in the year, call my office at 573-6345. Let us go to bat for you on some of the federal issues from immigration to veterans benefits that I love working on, first. Second, we got to make hard choices in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Out of all the things that were proposed in the initial version of President Biden's Build Back Better plan, what are the 2 or 3 things that matter most to you and your family? Should we be prioritizing daycare, pre-K, paid family leave, elder care? We're not going to be able to afford all of them or do all of them because we've now got 2 members of my caucus saying, bring this package down. So what are the ones that matter most? Last question, we've been doing for 6 months, a refundable child tax credit. That means for tens of thousands of Delaware families that have children, they're getting a check every month. They're getting an electronic payment. Have you noticed? Is it making a difference? That's one of the most expensive parts of this package. And I'm not getting any phone calls from Delawareans saying, this is great.
Really? I find that interesting.
Me too, and I'm struck by that.
Yeah.
It was the American Rescue Plan passed in March that authorized the proactive monthly payment of a refundable child tax credit. This is a big experiment. Studies by economists show it is having a huge impact on lowering child poverty. But I suspect that a lot of families that are receiving these payments don't know why they happened and aren't advocating for their extension.
Right.
So in the absence of hearing that, oh yeah, no, this really matters, don't stop it, it is one of the things we're debating. It's expensive.
I bet you'll get the phone calls if it stops. That's right. You will definitely get the phone calls. Now, we've been talking about this for the past 5 months since you and I have had these Washington Minute conversations, and that's vaccination, and that's boosters, and all these other things. How could you encourage someone right now? What would you say as their senator to get them out and get this done?
I'd say vaccines are safe and effective. They have now been fully authorized by the FDA. Anyone who's got concerns about the safety and efficacy of vaccines, I'm vaccinated, I'm fully vaccinated. Almost all of my family and staff are fully vaccinated. And that's frankly what allows me to come back to work and to feel comfortable and confident having an unmasked conversation with you in an indoor space. I've had my booster shot. My mom has had her booster shot. Sorry,
Mine
Mom.
too.
Sorry, Mom. I probably shouldn't be talking about the healthcare aspects of my extended family, but bluntly, anyone who is older, anyone who's immunocompromised, anyone who's got a healthcare condition where they might be vulnerable, the Delta virus it's roaring around. COVID is still out there. So anybody who's traveling regularly, anybody who's working, I just went to a Notre Dame football game in South Bend, 80,000 people yelling in the stadium.
I see those games and I worry.
And I would not have been there if I were not fully vaccinated. And I think having our booster shots gives those of us who are maybe a little bit older, maybe a little medically vulnerable, some confidence. Last, vaccinate your children. I believe in science, and I think the science underlying the development of these vaccines is sound, is safe, is transparent. And if we don't get to a higher percentage of vaccination in the state, we're going to continue to lose people. A friend of mine just died of COVID the other day. I just found out about it yesterday. A Pennsylvanian, someone I've known for years, almost exactly my age, someone of about my height and weight and background, and I thought, what a tragically needless loss. So this continues to be, this is a pandemic. It is still killing people every single day, about 1,700 Americans a day. We can prevent it. The vaccines are easily accessible. Vaccines and booster shots, please, folks, take advantage of them. It is the way out of this mess together.
Senator Coons, as always, thank you for taking the time to be on the Washington Minute.
Thank you. Great being on with you.